Okay, so today I'm gonna be building this wooden archway for like outside for like gardens. I'm not sure what exactly it's called, but it's like a wooden archway for gardens. You'll see by the end of the video. But I haven't uploaded it in a while because this is like the longest project I've ever done. And it took so long because I've never built something this big before, All my videos have been like just little cutting boards or hand planes, like something small. But this isn't the first time I've actually ever built something like that big. And I'm actually really proud of this because I do really like how it came out. This might be my favorite build. But I was out of town a lot of times throughout this project, so that's why it ended up taking so long. And I'm actually building it for some of my old coworkers. So shout out to Tanya and Selena. I appreciate them for supporting the business. And I ended up charging it at $135 because it was only built by 2x4s. And 2x4s aren't crazy expensive. They're pretty cheap. And this is my first time ever building something like this. So in case there were mistakes or mess ups, I wanted, not to be too expensive because I wasn't going to be able to build it perfect. And there actually were quite a bit of mistakes. And I did end up having to fix them, buy extra wood. So throughout this video, you're going to be seeing me make those mistakes and learning from my first big project. But yeah. And what you've been seeing so far is me just milling down the 2x4s to the exact length and measurement that I want and cutting up the different pieces and splitting them up. And I'm not the best at that, so this was good practice. And I kind of understand where I made mistakes and where I can improve for the next time I build something like this or mill lumber in general. So I just wanted to show you guys the image just so you guys can see what I'm building. So when I explain it, I don't sound that stupid and you guys can kind of understand what parts I'm building and what pieces I'm putting together. But yeah. And right here I'm using the little jigsaw table to help me cut out the edges to give it that nice unique shape. And I ended up not being responsible with it and trying to move it too fast and put too much force on it. So it did make the jigsaw fall out of the table and it was vibrating too much. So it ended up falling out. I had to take it off and ended up just using a handheld, which sucked though, because that was my only little cheap little bandsaw tool that I could use. And now I can't do it no more. And by the end of the video, the jigsaw tool ends up it kind of breaks on me, which is kind of damn crazy because that's the first tool that I've broken. And my dad gave me all these tools. So I'm damn, I just broke one of them. So I was kind of it just sucked a lot. But I'm going to be able to buy a new bandsaw. I don't think I'll buy a jigsaw, but I think I'm going to buy a bandsaw and the jigsaw later. And right here, I'm just routing the edges, making sure everything looks nice. Have a nice little round over. And I actually did so much routing this project. I started to hate routing because I had to route every piece of wood that was on here just to make it look, make it look nice. And it is worth it because it gives it that nice little touch. But it was just so annoying. And after completing the first part of this project, which I'll probably call, phase 1, completing the top part, I was actually very proud of it, and it actually looks so nice. I thought it was really nice, and it made me super happy, and I was super motivated to get through this project. And after feeling good doing that first part, I actually kind of hated doing the other pieces just because I'm an impatient person. I like to do things fast and get things done right away so I can feel the satisfaction of how good my project looks. But with something like this and I never built before, I had to take my time and try to make sure it came out really good. And even then I still rushed things because I was just being impatient and wanting to get it done faster so I could finally be satisfied with it. So I don't know how everyone else feels, but those are the things that I hate. That's the one thing I hate about woodworking too. It's the hard part of it is just having to be patient and take your time on everything so that when you do piece everything together, it comes out perfect, which I am working on that. And this project did help me work on that a lot. But I also noticed where I need to work on more because I rushed a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have and had to end up fixing it later. And as you can see right here I am just milling the wood again. And this is some of the stuff that I did rush, so my milling was not perfect, but I understand kind of where I made mistakes at and where I can try to improve. But yeah, milling this, the 2 walls, trying to get those. I think right here I'm building the first wall, or actually the 4 beams for each wall. That's what I'm doing right here, and I'm routing the edges. That took forever. This is me more routing again. I had to delete more footage of me routing because what am I going to talk about while just routing the whole time, So there's a lot of footage where I'm just straight routing, but it's actually just deleted. And another thing I hate, the sanding, making sure it's perfect. And Something I actually wish I did was sand every piece perfectly before I assembled it. And I didn't do this just because, like I said, I'm impatient and I was lazy and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just piece everything together and get that satisfaction, like that happiness. But all I did was just sand it with the 60 grit for now, just to give it like something like softish. But I ended up having to resand everything at the end while it was all pieced together, which was even harder with like a 220 grit. And here I am again, just routing my life away. And I'm actually going to cut some of this footage just so I don't have to keep on talking about routing. And you won't know it, but I will, as I'm doing my voiceover right now. And right here, I'm finally doing something else besides routing. I'm actually cutting out these 4 pieces that go in between each 4 pillars to actually connect the walls together. And I don't have a miter saw. I didn't have a miter saw at the time, so I'm using my table saw to cut them. And what I learned from this was not to do that because I was using, as you can see, that cheap little tiny little sled pusher thing. And if I had an actual proper table sled, then, you know, maybe my cuts would have been perfect and I wouldn't have messed it up. But thanks to my dad, you know, he gave me the old miter saw, which is still perfect. You know, it works amazing. All I need to do is just get a new blade. But it works perfectly, and it helps me to get those exact cuts, especially on those long boards. Like those boards back there, I don't know if you can see them, but they're like 7 feet tall. Or like, not 7 feet. They're like 6.5 feet tall. But it was just annoying to try to do that on the table saw. I tried doing it, and it was just not working out. I texted my dad if I could borrow the miter saw, and he actually gave it to me. So thank you to my dad. Got a new tool. I'm going to use it all the time. Make sure to put it to use. And yeah, right here, you can see like I'm working on attaching the pieces all together to connect them. And this was also a difficult part for me because it's kind of hard to hold 2 pieces together while trying to screw it in. Because if you ever use like the screwdriver, you know, sometimes it spins around and it will spin the wood around or like, you know, start acting up. So I had to use clamps with it. And the clamps did help a good amount. My clamps kind of carried the project for connecting everything because that was like the most annoying part, trying to connect everything. And also like trying to make sure everything was perfect, you know, making sure the top and the bottom pieces, 2 pieces, were connected at the same part in the middle, the same length, like, you know, height, whatever. And, you know, I'd say this is like phase 2 of the project. I completed, you know, getting the little out frame, the skeleton of it. So I was kind of happy about that, you know, felt more accomplishment. And right here, as I was like, you know, moving the pieces around, like moving the big walls around, I noticed that, you know, they're not that stable. Like it wasn't, like they're still a little wobbly. Like you can play with it when it should be like solidly stuck. So I ended up using the hammer, putting a couple nails in there, making sure everything was good and like secure. And I'm terrible with the hammer, so it was kind of difficult for me to actually use it. And right here is when I realized I made like another big mistake, fat mistake, where basically those wood pieces in between the long wood pieces, I'm sorry if I'm explaining it kind of stupid, but I'm not going to explain things. But those pieces, they're supposed to be 1 foot exactly going into it. And I did it perfectly on all of them besides one, and I made it accidentally 9 inches. And I was thinking like, bro, how did I even do that? Like it was so simple. But the way I put it in is I was supposed to flip it to the right side and it would have been one foot, but I flipped it to the left side instead and made it 9 inches. So right now you see me ripping everything apart, taking the nails out because I messed up that frame. And when I took that one piece off, it kind of loosened everything else. So like I was just like, I might as well remove everything else. So I had to take apart everything completely of one of the walls, and that was not fun. And right here, I'm just rounding up and sanding the pieces for the wall to make it kind of have that like grit pattern. I'm not sure what you call it, but that little like tic-tac-toe pattern. And yeah, that took a long time. So that also was not fun about this project. And here I got all my pieces, trying to measure up so that it fits nice and perfect inside the wall, nice and tight. And I did not do the best way. This is one of my other mistakes that I made. I should have had like a proper way to actually measure it, but I don't know what I was thinking. I just measured it like in the most not best way. So I learned from that mistake. And I also should have had a stopping block right next to my miter saw, which would have helped me actually like get the perfect measurements. Because when I put each of those pieces into the wall, some of them were perfect and tight, and some of them others were kind of loose, which it just made everything a lot worse. And it did really suck when that happened, because then I had to go get some wood filler for that. That's another big mistake that I made that I now realized for the future. And another thing that was hard about this project was trying to get the spacing for each little bar so that I had the perfect amount of space and it was even in between each one. For some reason, I could not, for the life of me, get that correct. It was a little bit off at the end when I did measure it, but the spacing was the best that I could do. And I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but I didn't research or think to like look it up. How can I find the best spacing for it? And that was on me. So I at least know kind of for next time. And the spacing on the first one that I did, compared to the second one came out a lot better when I did it again. Right here again, I'm just routing the long beams that are gonna go across the short little pieces of wood to give it that nice tick-toe pattern. And after when I did nail these on, I actually thought it looked really good. And I also got that, that feeling of happiness again after like completing the project. Obviously it's not completed, but of seeing it come together, and it made it all worth it. And right here, I'd say like completing phase 3 of the project, actually getting one of the walls up, and this made me incredibly happy because I loved how it looked. It actually looked like what I was trying to build, and that just made me more excited to get through it and build the next wall. And right here, I'm just repeating everything as I did to the first one, but at least having that experience of building the first one. So now I'm fixing my mistakes, making sure I actually clamp these together to hold them. I should have done it in the beginning so it's not as bendy, so it has a more like stable, strong thing to it. I don't know how you say it, but I'm actually taking my measurements better this time to make it more even and accurate. And right now you can see me routing again, but everything's exactly the same, attaching the long pieces to the short pieces, hammering a bunch of nails, hammering more nails just to make sure everything is sturdy, because, the thing that I would hate is if this broke on them and then it's like, damn, I'm just a terrible builder. So making sure everything's strong. I'll probably add a couple more nails to it too after I'm done with this video, but just to make sure everything's good. And right here I'm doing what I think was probably the favorite part of the project, was adding the 2 main pieces onto the walls to connect everything. Because when I actually did it, it ended up looking like it was complete. I was so happy, so satisfied. I was hyped up. Like, I was extremely excited. Everything looked crazy, looked sick. I liked it. But yeah, that was probably my most favorite part. I still had to add the beams going across, but with this coming all together, it looked incredible. And I was happy because it was the biggest thing that I've ever built, and I really did like it. And in the beginning of the video, I originally had those beams already ready that were going across the top. I made them. That was like one of the second things that I made, but I ended up deciding to use those to build the wall because I wanted those to do it, because the pieces that I got were too thin. So for me to actually have a nail or screw in there, I didn't want it to like rip through the wood and go out. So I used those pieces that were a little thicker. So then I ended up having to go back to Home Depot, buy 2 pieces of wood, cut them all up, and they were already like good size, perfect and everything. So I just had to cut them all up with the miter saw down to the size and route them once again. But it wasn't too bad because everything was coming together. But then after that, just doing the same old sanding, making sure everything looks good. And yeah. And all I had to finally do was just put the stain on it. But you would think it's like, okay, just put the stain on it and then I'm done. Nah, staining, it was annoying. Like, I don't know why I hated staining this, but it just took too long. And it was annoying trying to get inside all the cracks and get it. I did end up getting everything, but it's just like, it's annoying. And, something that I don't want to do, like staining. Like, I wish the wood was already brown, but like if I built this out of walnut, that would have just been like $1 million, bruh. So I had to use 2x4s and actually stain it with color. And yeah, it was just annoying. Not my favorite part of the project, but yeah. What I did like staining though was this one fat big piece, because after you stain that, that's the easiest part of staining. It's just you rub it against across from it. You don't have to get any cracks, nothing like that. Rub it across and it looks so good. And that part just brought it all together with the color. And I forgot to mention, I also added the beams onto it right here. And I didn't record that because it was hot in the garage and I just didn't feel like recording at the time, and I had to screw in everything. And yeah. But after staining everything and putting this into the sunlight, which was actually annoying to kind of carry because I had to kind of carry it out of my garage. But putting it in the sunlight and everything, it made everything worth it. Like, I fell in love with this project at the end. I thought it looked very good, super amazing. At least for my level of building, because I've only built cutting boards, small stuff. But to build something this big, I did really love this, and the project was super fun to do.